An oxymoron is a fancy name for a phrase or a couple of words in that phrase that seem to cancel each other out, that seem to be opposite. An example of that would be like a term bittersweet, kind of opposites. The living dead. Or if someone says, thank God I'm an atheist, that doesn't make any sense. But in the church, in the Christian tradition, we have some phrases that seem to be oxymorons. Two things in tension that we call Jesus the God-man. Those are things in tension. He's fully God and fully man. Try to put your head around that. That our Blessed Mother is both virgin and mother. Things that seem to be canceling each other out. We even call the crucifix that Jesus died on the altar of the cross. That the altar where we make the sacrifice, that a cross becomes an altar which God is sacrificed to God. God the Son is sacrificed to God the Father. Put your head around that. That's heavy stuff. But even for us Catholics, it's still a mystery even to provide the verbiage that what we believe happens on this altar is that the one sacrifice of Christ is made present every single day, all over the world, on every altar. A propitiatory sacrifice, a fancy name, which means something that happened once for all, is present to us here every day. It is a mystery and a miracle. But there's another oxymoron I'd like us to look at from this passion that we just plowed through. And that's this term, the good thief. This man that's on the cross next to Jesus, that only in the Gospel of Luke do we get this little intimate conversation between three people at the worst moment of their lives, hanging naked on a cross, being tortured to death, and them having a conversation. And one of them being called the good thief. Two things that seem to be opposite. How do you have a good thief? Some theologians called him the best thief, the world's best thief, because he stole heaven. He pulled it off. We don't know much about this man. Tradition has him as Saint Dismas, but we don't know that. We don't know much about him, but we can say a few things. One thing we can know is he knew who Jesus was. Now, some whole faiths base their salvation theology on, God can save everybody, even at the last minute. You don't need the sacraments. But I think that good thief, if he could trade places with any of us, any of you, he would do it. But for all we know, he could have been baptized. He could have been a follower of Christ. We don't know that. He did something wrong. But what can we learn from the few words that he does say? You could almost say that Jesus catches him right up in these last few minutes of his life. The first thing he does is he reprimands the other thief. Have you no fear of God? He's discipling him. He's doing fraternal correction at his worst moment in his whole life. He's correcting the other one, scolding him even. Have you no fear of God? And then he even, you could say, he goes to confession with Jesus right there. We are guilty. We deserve this. He confesses his guilt. And then when he says, do not have no fear of God, this man is innocent. He announces Christ's innocent, that he is an innocent lamb, a spotless lamb. And he announces Christ's kingship. Remember me in your kingdom. At his worst moment, at his rock bottom moment, he does something that's mysterious. And we say that the kingdom of God is the church, and Christ includes us at the Eucharist, and on the cross, that good thief expresses his desire to be part of that. To be part of that. He is kind of a wounded healer. He was baptized, reconciled, all those things. Even a missionary, you could call him, from the cross, and desired to be part of the kingdom of God. Now, whether he received any of those sacraments, we don't know. But he would love to trade places with anybody, any of you at that moment, to follow Christ. That's why we call him the good thief. But I would say to all of us here that to take his warning and not wait till we're on our deathbed, till we're on our last few minutes of life, to think, oh no, I'll wait to the end to catch up with our sacraments. So let me make an appeal now. There are people in here that have not been baptized. What's keeping you from being baptized? Come approach us, make us do the work, and help you make that happen. There are people here not confirmed, who just didn't get around to it. Maybe your parents, when you were 12 or 13, said, oh, you can choose or something, and you never got confirmed. There are people in this congregation right now who are not married por la iglesia. They're not married in the church and become comfortable with living like that. Never get comfortable with living in sin. Never. Always see it as someone holding your head underwater and you're struggling to get out. I'd also say there's some here, even lifelong Catholics, who haven't been to confession in decades. In decades. Don't let that be you. Don't let it be at the last moment of your life where you wish you would have taken the chance when you had it. Like I said, I think he would trade places with any of us at that moment to make his life better. And there are men here who are called to holy orders. Don't be afraid. And don't be afraid to encourage your sons especially to embrace holy orders and diaconate or priesthood. But one thing we could also say about the good thief, that oxymoron, but Jesus' very person gives us that tension. He is fully God and fully man. We say things that any religion in the whole world will think is just crazy. We believe God died, that God himself experienced death. That's the mystery. When all of you knelt down a few minutes ago, you acknowledge, wow, he loved me to death. In some ways, that is an oxymoron. But we can also say this about the good thief. At his rock bottom place, when he's bleeding to death and about to have his legs broken, he was a wounded healer. In his woundedness, he's healing. And we can say that about Christ too, as the wounded healer between us and the Father. Because in about a week or so, we're going to celebrate the greatest solemnity of our church calendar, the Paschal Mystery, Pasqua, what we call Easter in English, the resurrection. But there's still something about that resurrection that still befuddles theologians to this day. When Jesus rose from the dead in his glorified body, he still had wounds. What? And if you ask even someone with a PhD in theology, you watch them do theological and philosophical backflips to try to make sense of that. Because on the cross, he was just that, an oxymoron, a wounded healer. All of you are called, because all of you are wounded in some way. All of you are wounded in some way doesn't mean you get to stop being missionaries. So go be a missionary, be a wounded healer, even if it seems like it's an oxymoron.